Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air change? That moment when every instinct screams that you're in danger, but you can't pinpoint the source? That's exactly what happened to Naomi Washington the night she attended the most exclusive masquerade ball in Chicago. Completely unaware that she was walking into a carefully orchestrated trap that would have ended her life, if not for the intervention of the most dangerous man in the room. Naomi wasn't supposed to be at the Rossi Foundation's annual masquerade gala. She was a forensic accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown, the kind of person who preferred spreadsheets to socializing, who found comfort in numbers rather than networking. But her boss, Richard Carver, had insisted she attend in his place. He'd claimed sudden illness that Friday afternoon, pressing the elegant black and gold invitation into her hands, with an urgency that should have raised red flags. "You have to go, Naomi," Richard had said, his face pale and sweating despite the cool October air conditioning in their office. "The Rossi Foundation is considering us for their annual audit. This could make our firm." She'd wanted to refuse. These kinds of events weren't her scene. She was more comfortable in her small apartment in Hyde Park, working on her paintings or reading mystery novels while her cat, Duchess, curled up beside her. But Richard had been her mentor for 3 years, the one who'd taken a chance on her when no other firm would look twice at a young black woman from the South Side with a state school education and more determination than connections. That's how Naomi found herself standing in front of the Drake Hotel that Saturday night, wearing a deep purple gown she'd bought 3 years ago for a wedding and never worn again. The dress hugged her curves before flowing out at the waist, and she'd paired it with an ornate golden mask decorated with peacock feathers that she'd found at a vintage shop that afternoon. Her natural hair was styled in an elegant updo, adorned with small golden pins that caught the light from the hotel's grand entrance. The Drake Hotel's ballroom had been transformed into something out of a Venetian dream. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over hundreds of masked figures in elaborate costumes. The men wore classic black tuxedos with masks ranging from simple black silk to elaborate designs featuring horns and precious stones. The women floated through the space in gowns of every color imaginable, their faces hidden behind masks adorned with feathers, jewels, and intricate metalwork. Naomi felt immediately out of place. These weren't just Chicago's wealthy elite. These were people who moved in circles she'd only read about in the financial reports she analyzed. She recognized a few faces despite the masks. A senator here, a federal judge there, the CEO of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country. What was a small accounting firm doing trying to take court clients at this level? She made her way to the bar, ordering a glass of champagne more for something to do with her hands than any desire to drink. The bartender, a young man with kind eyes behind a simple black domino mask, smiled as he handed her the crystal flute. "First time at one of these?" he asked quietly. "Is it that obvious?" Naomi replied with a nervous laugh. "You're looking around like you're trying to solve a puzzle," he said. "Most people here are either hunting or being hunted. You look like you're just trying to understand the game." Before Naomi could ask what he meant, someone cleared their throat behind her. She turned to find a tall man in an expensive tuxedo, his face hidden behind a silver mask that covered everything above his nose. His smile was too wide, too eager. "You must be Mr. Carver's replacement," the man said, his voice carrying a slight accent she couldn't place. "I'm Marcus Volpe. Your boss and I have been discussing some special arrangements." Something in the way he said special arrangements made Naomi's skin crawl. She took an instinctive step back, her spine hitting the edge of the bar. "I'm just here to represent the firm," she said carefully. "Mr. Carver didn't brief me on any specific business discussions." Marcus's smile grew wider. "Of course not. Richard knows how to be discreet. Come, dance with me. We can discuss the details somewhere more private." He reached for her arm, and Naomi felt a spike of fear shoot through her. His grip was too firm, too possessive for a stranger at a professional event. She tried to pull back, but his fingers tightened. "I don't think," she started. "Dance with me or die." The words were whispered so quietly she almost didn't hear them over the orchestra. They didn't come from Marcus, but from somewhere behind her. A deeper voice, dangerous and urgent. Before she could process what was happening, a hand settled on her lower back. Not grabbing, just a gentle pressure, and she found herself being smoothly pulled away from Marcus's grip. "Mi scusi," the new voice said, louder now, addressing Marcus. "But the lady already promised me this dance." Naomi turned to see her rescuer and her breath caught. He was tall, perhaps 6'3", with broad shoulders that filled out his perfectly tailored black tuxedo. His mask was unique, black leather crafted to look like the face of a wolf, covering everything except his strong jaw and perfectly shaped mouth. But it was his eyes, visible through the mask's openings, that held her attention. They were gray like storm clouds, intense and dangerous. But when they flicked down to meet hers, she saw something else there. Protection. Warning. Marcus's face had gone pale behind his silver mask. "Mr. Santelli, I didn't realize you were attending tonight." Santelli. The name sent a ripple of recognition through Naomi's mind. She'd seen it in the financial documents she analyzed, always in connection with businesses that operated in the gray areas of Chicago's economy. Restaurants that were always packed but rarely seemed to turn a profit. Construction companies that won city contracts despite higher bids. Import businesses that moved merchandise through customs with unusual efficiency. "I never missed the Rossi Foundation Gala," the man said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from never having to raise it. "And I particularly don't miss the opportunity to dance with the most beautiful woman in the room." His hand was still on her back, warm through the silk of her dress. He guided her away from Marcus with subtle pressure, leading her toward the dance floor. She should have resisted, should have excused herself and left immediately. But something in his eyes when he looked at her, a flash of genuine concern beneath the dangerous exterior, made her follow. The orchestra was playing a waltz, something classical and elegant. Santelli positioned them, properly, one hand holding hers, the other resting appropriately on her waist. He was an excellent dancer, leading her through the steps with a confidence that allowed her to follow despite her racing heart. "Don't look back at him," he murmured, his voice pitched low enough that only she could hear. "And whatever you do, don't drink anything at this party that you didn't see poured fresh from a sealed bottle." "What?" Naomi's voice came out sharper than intended. "What are you talking about?" "Your boss set you up," he said simply, spinning her in a turn that took them deeper into the crowd of dancers. "Whatever he told you about why you're here, it was a lie. Marcus Volpe thinks you're here as payment for a debt Carver owes him." Naomi stumbled slightly, but Santelli's grip kept her upright and moving. "That's insane. Richard would never—" "Richard Carver has been embezzling from your firm for 18 months. Santelli cut her off. "He's been using the company accounts to launder money for the Volpe family. But he got greedy, skimmed too much off the top. Now he owes them $400,000 he doesn't have." The room seemed to spin independent of their dancing. Naomi's mind raced through the firm's accounts, suddenly seeing patterns she dismissed as accounting quirks in a new, sinister light. "So he thought he'd trade me instead?" The words tasted like poison in her mouth. "The Volpes have a side business," Santelli said carefully. "Beautiful women who disappear from parties like this, only to resurface in private auctions in Eastern Europe or the Middle East. Carver knew you had no family to miss you. No one who would ask too many questions if you simply didn't show up to work Monday morning." Naomi felt sick. She'd trusted Richard, had considered him almost like family, and he'd sold her like property to cover his own crimes. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, forcing herself to meet those storm-gray eyes. "Why do you care?" Something shifted in his expression, though it was hard to read behind the wolf mask. "Because I have a particular hatred for men who trade in human flesh, and because Richard Carver made the mistake of trying to use my foundation's gala to conduct his dirty business." "Your foundation?" A slight smile curved his lips. "Did you think Rossi was my real name? In certain circles, I'm known as Dante Santelli. In others, I'm Anthony Rossi, philanthropist and patron of the arts. The wolf mask seemed appropriate for tonight, don't you think? Dante Santelli." The name was whispered in Chicago's underworld like a prayer or a curse, depending on which side of his favor you fell. He controlled half the city's illegal gambling, ran protection for dozens of businesses, and had connections that reached from street corners to the mayor's office. He was also known for a brutal code of honor: no drugs in his territory, no trafficking of women or children, and severe consequences for anyone who broke those rules. "So you're what? The lesser evil?" Naomi asked, surprised by her own boldness. He actually laughed, a rich sound that sent unexpected warmth through her chest. "I prefer to think of myself as a necessary evil. Every city has men like Marcus Volpe. The only question is whether they operate with impunity or whether someone makes them follow certain rules." The music changed, shifting to something slower, more intimate. Santelli adjusted their position accordingly, drawing her slightly closer. Not inappropriately so, but enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive with notes of sandalwood and leather. "What happens now?" she asked. "I can't just leave. Marcus will know something's wrong." "Marcus is being watched by 3 of my men," Santelli said. "He won't make a move until he thinks you're properly drugged. The champagne you were drinking at the bar was clean." My bartender made sure of that. But Marcus will try again. He'll send someone to offer you another drink, probably in about 10 minutes. Your bartender? I own the Drake Hotel, he said simply, along with half the staff working tonight's event. Very little happens in this room that I don't know about. Naomi processed this information, her analytical mind working through the implications. So you knew about Richard's plan before tonight? I suspected. Richard isn't as clever as he thinks. When he suddenly claimed illness and sent you in his place, it confirmed what I'd pieced together from various sources. And you decided to save me out of the goodness of your heart? His hand tightened slightly on her waist. I decided to save you because I despise men who prey on women. And because when I saw you walk in tonight, looking like a goddess among mortals in that purple dress, the thought of Marcus Volpe putting his hands on you made me want to commit acts that would shock even my own men. The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, she felt heat pool in her stomach, a dangerous attraction to this man who was everything she should run from. You don't even know me, she pointed out. I know enough, he countered. I know you're brilliant. Your forensic accounting work is legendary in certain circles. I know you're loyal. You came here tonight despite your obvious discomfort because your boss asked you to. I know you're brave. You're dancing with the most dangerous man in Chicago and haven't run screaming. And I know you're beautiful in a way that has nothing to do with that dress, though the dress certainly doesn't hurt. Naomi felt heat rise to her cheeks. You've been watching me? I keep tabs on all the best forensic accountants in the city, he said with a slight smile. Never know when I might need one. Though I'll admit, your file didn't do you justice. Before she could respond, she noticed movement in her peripheral vision. A woman in a red dress was approaching with a tray of champagne glasses, her trajectory clearly aimed at them. Here we go, Santelli murmured. Marcus's second attempt. When she offers you a drink, take it but don't drink. I'll handle the rest. The woman reached them just as the song ended, her smile bright and false behind a crimson mask adorned with rubies. Champagne? She offered, extending the tray toward Naomi. Naomi reached for a glass, but Santelli's hand intercepted hers. Actually, I think the lady would prefer something from my private reserve. He took the glass from Naomi's hand and set it back on the tray. Thank you, though. The woman's smile faltered, but Mr. Volpe insisted, and I'm insisting otherwise, Santelli said, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. Run along now. Tell Marcus that Miss Washington is under my protection for the evening. The woman paled and retreated quickly. Santelli guided Naomi off the dance floor toward a quieter corner of the ballroom, his hand never leaving her back. That's going to escalate things, Naomi observed. Good. I prefer when enemies show their true faces. He positioned them near a window overlooking the Chicago skyline, his body angled to keep the room in view while shielding her from the crowd. The question now is what you want to do about your boss. What are my options? You could go to the police. But Richard's been careful. The evidence of his embezzlement is likely well hidden, and the Volpes have connections in the CPD. You could simply disappear. I could arrange for you to start fresh somewhere else. New identity, new life. Or, his eyes gleamed behind the wolf mask. Or you could let me handle it. Richard Carver and Marcus Volpe would learn what happens when someone tries to traffic a woman under my protection. Your protection, Naomi repeated. You keep saying that like it means something. It means everything, he said seriously. Once I've declared someone under my protection, anyone who touches them answers to me. It's not a declaration I make lightly. And what would I owe you for this protection? Nothing you're not willing to give. His hand rose to her face, fingers ghosting along her jaw without quite touching. I'm not Richard. I don't trade in debts that compromise a woman's dignity. The intensity in his eyes made her shiver. She should be terrified. She was standing in a ballroom full of criminals, talking to the most dangerous of them all about revenge and protection like they were normal topics of conversation. But something about Dante Santelli made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. I need air, she said suddenly, the weight of the evening crashing down on her. Come. He led her through a side door onto a terrace that overlooked Lake Michigan. The October air was crisp, and she shivered. Without hesitation, he removed his tuxedo jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The jacket smelled like him and was still warm from his body. Naomi pulled it closer, trying to process everything that had happened in the last hour. This morning I was a normal accountant with a normal life, she said to the night air. Now I find out my mentor tried to sell me to human traffickers and I'm being protected by the Italian Mafia. How is this my life? Life has a way of revealing its true nature when we least expect it, Dante said, moving to stand beside her at the railing. He'd removed his wolf mask, and she got her first look at his full face. He was devastatingly handsome in a dangerous way. Sharp cheekbones, a strong nose that had been broken at least once, and a scar through his left eyebrow that somehow only added to his appeal. "You're staring," he noted with amusement. "You're not what I expected," she admitted. "What did you expect?" "Someone older, harder. You can't be more than 35. 36, he confirmed. "I inherited the family business younger than planned. My father was killed when I was 23. "I'm sorry," he shrugged. "It's the nature of this life. He died protecting what he'd built, making sure his enemies couldn't destroy our family. I've spent the last 13 years honoring that sacrifice. By becoming the most feared man in Chicago, by becoming powerful enough that no one dares touch what's mine." He corrected. "Fear is just a tool. Respect is what matters." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Naomi asked, "What happens when we go back inside?" "That depends on Marcus. He's probably realized by now that you're not going to be the easy mark Richard promised. He has two choices: back off and accept the loss, or escalate." As if on cue, the terrace door opened. Marcus Volpe stepped out, flanked by two large men whose masks did nothing to hide their threatening presence. "Mr. Santelli," Marcus said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding. The lady came here with me tonight." "No," Naomi said, finding her voice. "I came here alone, representing my firm. And I'll be leaving alone too." Marcus's face contorted with rage. "Your boss owes me $400,000. He offered you as collateral." "Then you made a bad deal," Dante said calmly, though Naomi noticed his body had shifted into a ready stance. "Human beings can't be collateral. I thought even you understood that, Marcus. Don't lecture me about morality, Santelli. You've killed more men than I've had hot dinners. Men who chose violence and found it," Dante agreed. "Not innocent women sold to pay their boss's debts. There's a difference, though I wouldn't expect you to understand it." Marcus pulled a gun from inside his jacket, pointing it at Dante. "She's mine. Carver promised her to me, and I'm collecting." Dante laughed. Actually laughed, at the gun pointed at his chest. "You pull that trigger and you won't make it off this terrace alive. I have 6 men in that ballroom who would drop you before my body hit the ground. And then your entire operation would be systematically destroyed within 48 hours. Is one woman worth the complete annihilation of everything you've built?" "She's worth $400,000, Marcus snarled. "I'll cover Carver's debt," Dante said simply. $400,000, transferred to your accounts by Monday morning. In exchange, you forget Naomi Washington exists. You forget Richard Carver exists. And you never attempt to traffic another woman through one of my events." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Why? What's she to you?" Dante stepped forward, placing himself between Marcus and Naomi. "She's under my protection. That's all you need to know." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Marcus slowly lowered the gun. "Fine. 400,000 by Monday, or I come collecting. From you this time." He turned and stalked back into the ballroom, his men following. Naomi released a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "You just paid $400,000 for me," she said, stunned. "I paid $400,000 to keep you safe," Dante corrected, turning to face her. "There's no debt between us, Naomi. I need you to understand that." "Why?" The question came out as barely a whisper. "Why would you do that for someone you just met?" He moved closer, his hand rising to cup her cheek. This time he did touch her, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone with surprising gentleness. "Because the moment you walked into that ballroom, something in me recognized something in you," he said quietly. "I've lived in darkness so long I'd forgotten what light looked like. Then you appeared in purple silk and peacock feathers, and suddenly I remembered." Naomi's heart was racing. She should step back, should run from this dangerous man and his dangerous world. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch. "This is insane," she breathed. "The best things usually are." His other hand settled on her waist, drawing her closer. "Tell me to stop, Naomi. Tell me to step back and let you walk away from all of this." "What if I don't want to walk away?" His eyes darkened. "Then you're either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe both," she admitted. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like she expected from such a dangerous man. It was soft, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. Instead, she pressed closer, her hands rising to grip his shoulders as she kissed him back. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "You're going to complicate my life," he murmured. You just paid off my boss's gambling debt and threatened the Volpe crime family for me, she pointed out. I think we're past complicated. He laughed, the sound warming her from the inside. Fair point. Come, let's get you out of here before Marcus decides to test my patience further. He led her back through the ballroom, his hand possessive on her back. Every eye in the room tracked their progress, whispers. Following in their wake, Naomi knew that by tomorrow morning, all of Chicago's underworld would know that she was under Dante Santelli's protection. A black Bentley was waiting at the hotel entrance, a driver already holding the door open. Dante helped her inside, then slid in beside her. Where do you live? He asked. She gave him her address in Hyde Park, and he relayed it to the driver. As the car pulled away from the hotel, Naomi caught a glimpse of Marcus Volpe standing at a window, watching them leave. Is this going to cause problems for you? She asked. With the other families? Let me worry about the other families, Dante said. Though I should warn you, declaring you under my protection means you'll have a target on your back. The Volpes aren't the only ones who might try to use you to get to me. So what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you let me assign security to you. Discreet, professional men who'll ensure your safety without interfering with your life. Naomi considered this. Her practical mind knew she should refuse, should distance herself from this man and his violent world. But Richard's betrayal had shown her that the normal world held its own dangers, and at least Dante was honest about his. For how long? She asked. For as long as necessary. He paused. Or for as long as you'll let me protect you. There was something in the way he said it that suggested he was talking about more than just security guards. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, she found herself intrigued by the possibility. They rode in silence through Chicago's streets, the city lights casting patterns across Dante's face. He looked younger in the shifting light, and she could see traces of the man he might have been if he'd been born into a different life. Tell me about your family, she said suddenly. He looked surprised by the question. What do you want to know? Everything. If I'm going to trust you with my life, I should at least know who. You are beyond the reputation. He was quiet for a moment, then began to speak. My grandfather came here from Sicily in 1948 with nothing but the clothes on his back and a determination to build something. He started with a single restaurant, then two, then a small import business. By the time my father took over, we had interests in construction, hospitality, and various other enterprises. Legal enterprises? Some more legal than others, he admitted. My father tried to legitimize more of the business, but in Chicago the line between legal and illegal has always been fluid. Especially for Italians trying to build something in a city that didn't want us. And now? Now I control enough of both sides that the distinction matters less. The Rossi Foundation does genuine charitable work. We've put hundreds of kids through college, funded medical research, supported the arts. The fact that some of that money comes from less noble sources doesn't negate the good. It does. That's a convenient philosophy, Naomi observed. It's a practical one, he corrected. The world isn't black and white, Naomi. It's 1,000 shades of gray, and the best we can do is try to add more light than darkness. The car pulled up outside her apartment building, a converted brownstone that had seen better days. Dante frowned at the lack of security. No doorman, just a simple lock that looked like it could be picked by an amateur. This won't do, he said. It's what I can afford. Naomi replied defensively. Not anymore. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I own a building 3 blocks from here. Much more secure, doorman, private parking. You can move in tomorrow. Dante, I can't. You can and you will, he interrupted. Consider it part of the protection package. No rent, no strings attached, just a safe place to live until the situation with Marcus is fully resolved. And after that? He met her eyes. After that, we'll see where we stand. There was promise in those words, possibility for something beyond the immediate danger. Naomi knew she should be more cautious, but something about Dante made her want to take risks she'd never considered before. I'll think about it, she said. That's all I ask. He got out of the car and came around to open her door, ever the gentleman despite his dangerous reputation. I'll have someone stationed outside tonight, just as a precaution. You won't see them, but they'll be there. Is that really necessary? Marcus backed down too easily. He's planning something. His jaw tightened. I won't let him hurt you, Naomi. Whatever it takes, you're safe now. The intensity of his declaration made her shiver. She'd gone from being invisible to being the center of a very dangerous man's attention, all in the space of one evening. Thank you, she said softly, for everything tonight. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Don't thank me yet. You've entered my world now, and it's not an easy place to navigate. Maybe not, she agreed, but it's honest in its danger. That's more than I can say for the world I thought I knew. Something shifted in his expression, a vulnerability that he probably didn't show many people. You're not afraid of me. Should I be? Most people are. Most people haven't seen you risk a war to save a stranger at a party, she pointed out. You're dangerous, yes, but not to me. No, he agreed quietly. Never to you. He waited until she was safely inside her building before returning to the car. Naomi watched from her window as the Bentley pulled away, then noticed another car park across the street. The security he'd promised, she assumed. Her apartment felt different now, smaller and shabbier after the opulence of the Drake Hotel. She removed the golden mask, setting it on her coffee table where it caught the light from the street lamp outside. The evening felt like a dream, too surreal to be real. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The building I mentioned, 1,847 Newtons, Shore Drive, Penthouse 3. The doorman will have keys whenever you're ready. Sleep well, Bella. D. Bella. Beautiful. The endearment in Italian made her stomach flutter. She was in so much trouble. Her phone rang, jarring her from her thoughts. Richard's name appeared on the screen. Against her better judgment, she answered, Naomi, thank God. Are you all right? Richard's voice was frantic. I'm fine, she said coldly. No thanks to you. Silence. Then, I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me, Richard. I know about the embezzlement. I know about your debt to Marcus Volpe. And I know you tried to sell me to cover it. Naomi, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You were my mentor. I trusted you. And you tried to have me trafficked. It wasn't supposed to go that far. Richard's composure cracked. Marcus said he just wanted to meet you. Maybe convince you to cook some books for. I didn't know about the trafficking until tonight when what? When Marcus called to say Santelli had interfered. Naomi, you have to stay away from him. Dante Santelli is dangerous. She laughed bitterly. Dante Santelli saved my life tonight. You tried to destroy it. I know which one I consider dangerous. He's using you to get to me. The Santellis and the Volpes have been enemies for years. You're just a pawn in their game. No, Richard. I was a pawn in your game. Now I'm under Dante's protection. And you'd better hope that's enough to keep Marcus from coming after you. Naomi, please. She hung up, blocking his number immediately after. There was nothing he could say that would undo his betrayal. Unable to sleep, she opened her laptop and began doing what she did best, following the money. Now that she knew what to look for, Richard's embezzlement was obvious. Fake vendors, inflated invoices, circular transactions that washed money through multiple accounts, before disappearing into offshore holdings. It was amateur hour compared to some of the schemes she'd unraveled for legitimate clients. She worked through the night, building a comprehensive file of Richard's crimes. By dawn, she had enough evidence to destroy him completely. The question was what to do with it. Her doorbell rang at exactly 7 a.m. When she checked the peephole, she saw a young man in a suit holding a coffee tray and a bag that smelled like fresh pastries. Delivery for Miss Washington, he called through the door. She recognized him as one of the men who'd been in the ballroom last night, trying to blend into the crowd while obviously watching Dante's back. She opened the door. Let me guess, Dante sent you. Mr. Santelli thought you might appreciate breakfast after a long night, the man said with a slight smile. He also asked me to give you this. He handed her an envelope along with the food. Inside was a handwritten note in elegant script. Naomi, I hope you slept better than I did. I spent the night thinking about purple silk and peacock feathers. The offer to move stands. The penthouse is yours if you want it. If you're willing, I'd like to see you tonight. Dinner at 8? I promise no masquerade balls or death threats this time. Just you, me, and the best Italian food in Chicago. Send your answer with Tommy. D. Tommy? She asked the young man. That's me, miss. I'll be your regular security detail if you're amenable. My regular security, she repeated. And how long does Mr. Santelli think I'll need security? Tommy's expression was carefully neutral. As long as there are threats against you, miss. Or as long as you're connected to Mr. Santelli, whichever lasts longer. And which do you think will last longer? A small smile cracked his professional facade. If I were a betting man, miss, I'd say the connection to Mr. Santelli. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looked at you last night. Naomi felt heat rise to her cheeks. Tell him yes to dinner. And I'll look at the penthouse this afternoon. Very good, miss. I'll relay the message. After Tommy left, Naomi ate the breakfast, fresh croissants, fruit, and the best coffee she'd had in months, while contemplating the turn her life had taken. 24 hours ago, she'd been a nobody, invisible in the great machine of Chicago. Now she was under the protection of the city's most dangerous man, holding evidence that could destroy her former mentor, and about to have dinner with someone who could probably have her killed with a single phone call, but who instead looked at her like she was something precious. Her phone buzzed with another unknown number. This time it was a woman's voice when she answered. Miss Washington? My name is Isabella Romano. I'm Mr. Santelli's personal attorney. He asked me to review your employment situation. I understand there might be some irregularities with your current firm? That's one way to put it, Naomi said dryly. If you're willing, I'd like to meet with you this morning to discuss your options. We can pursue criminal charges against Mr. Carver, civil action for attempted trafficking, or handle things more quietly. What would you recommend? That depends on your goal. Justice? Revenge? Safety? Or simply moving forward with your life? Can I have all of the above? Isabella laughed. I like you already. How's 11 at my office? Naomi agreed and took down the address. After showering and dressing in her best business suit, she might be entering the criminal underworld, but she was still a professional. She headed out to meet the lawyer. Isabella Romano's office occupied the top floor of a building in the Loop, with views of the river and the kind of understated elegance that whispered old money rather than shouting new wealth. Isabella herself was a striking woman in her 40s, with steel gray hair styled in a perfect bob, and eyes that missed nothing. So, Isabella said after they'd settled into leather chairs with coffee, Dante tells me you have evidence of embezzlement. Naomi handed over a flash drive containing everything she'd compiled. Isabella plugged it into her computer, her eyebrows rising as she scrolled through the files. This is excellent work, she said. Clear, comprehensive, legally admissible. You could destroy Richard Carver with this, but doing so would require you to testify, which would put you in the spotlight. The Volpes might decide you're too dangerous to leave alive, or other families might see you as a way to hurt Dante. So you're saying I should let Richard get away with it? I'm saying there are other ways to handle this. Isabella leaned back in her chair. Richard's embezzlement hurt your firm, but the money he stole was mostly from clients who won't miss it, shell companies and offshore accounts that were probably hiding money themselves. If we expose him publicly, the investigation could destroy the entire firm, putting dozens of innocent employees out of work. What's the alternative? We confront Richard privately. He resigns immediately, forfeits his partnership stake, and pays restitution to the firm. In exchange, we don't pursue criminal charges. The firm survives, the other employees keep their jobs, and Richard loses everything he built without the public spectacle. And Marcus? Marcus is Dante's problem to handle. Trust me, by the time Dante's done, Marcus will wish he'd never heard your name. Naomi considered this. It wasn't the complete justice she wanted, but it was practical. And after last night, she was learning to appreciate practical solutions. All right, she agreed. But I want to be there when you confront Richard. Isabella smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. They drove to the firm's offices together, Isabella's presence commanding immediate attention from the receptionist. Richard was in his fair office, and his face went white when he saw Naomi enter with the elegantly dressed attorney. Naomi, Shut up, Isabella said pleasantly. My name is Isabella Romano. I represent Miss Washington, who as of this morning is no longer an employee of this firm. We're here to discuss your immediate resignation. I'm not resigning, Richard said, trying to summon some backbone. Isabella pulled out a tablet, showing him a sample of the evidence Naomi had compiled. Yes, you are. Unless you'd prefer I forward this to the FBI? I'm sure they'd be very interested in your money laundering operation. Richard slumped in his chair. What do you want? Your resignation. Effective immediately. You'll forfeit your partnership stake to be divided among the other partners. You'll pay $200,000 in restitution to the firm. I know you have it in your Cayman accounts. And you'll leave Chicago. Tonight. I can't just leave. Yes, you can, Isabella interrupted. Because the alternative is that Dante Santelli handles this personally. And I promise you, his solution will be far less pleasant than mine. Richard's face went even paler at the mention of Dante's name. He's involved in this? Miss Washington is under Mr. Santelli's protection, Isabella said simply. What you tried to do to her has consequences. Be grateful we're handling this legally. It took less than an hour for Richard to sign everything Isabella put in front of him. As they left his office, Naomi saw him slumped over his desk, his entire world crumbling around him. She waited to feel sympathy, but found only cold satisfaction. "Feel better?" Isabella asked as they waited for the elevator. "I thought I would," Naomi admitted. "But mostly I just feel empty." "That's normal. Betrayal leaves a void. The question is what you fill it with." "What would you suggest?" Isabella smiled. "Well, you're having dinner with Dante tonight. That's a start." "You know about that?" "Honey, everyone knows about that. Dante Santelli doesn't do dinner dates. The fact that he's taking you to his private restaurant has the entire family buzzing." "His private restaurant?" "La Rosa Nera. It's invitation only, hidden in an old speakeasy space under the city. It's where the family conducts business and celebrates milestones. Outsiders are rarely invited. But I'm an outsider." Isabella gave her an appraising look. "Are you?" "After last night, I'd say you're very much on the inside. The question is whether you want to stay there." After leaving the firm, Naomi met Tommy at the address Dante had provided for the penthouse. The building was everything her current apartment wasn't. Modern. Secure. With a doorman who greeted Tommy by name and didn't blink at Naomi's presence. The penthouse itself took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the space decorated in warm neutrals with touches of gold and deep blue. The kitchen was a chef's dream, all professional-grade appliances and marble countertops. The master bedroom had a view of the sunrise and a bathroom larger than her current living room. "This is too much," she said to Tommy. "Mr. Santelli was very specific," Tommy replied. "You're to have whatever you need to feel safe and comfortable. This goes well beyond safe and comfortable. Then consider it an investment in potential," Tommy said with a slight smile. "Mr. Santelli is very good at seeing potential." Naomi spent the afternoon moving her essential belongings, which didn't take long. She didn't have much: her art supplies, her laptop, her clothes, and Duchess, who explored the new space with regal approval. At 6, a package arrived. Inside was a dress, deep emerald green silk that flowed like water through her fingers. The note attached simply said, "Wear this tonight. D." The dress fit perfectly, hugging her curves before falling in elegant lines to her ankles. It was accompanied by delicate gold, jewelry and shoes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she hardly recognized the woman staring back. Tommy drove her to dinner, navigating through the city to a nondescript building in the West Loop. From the outside, it looked abandoned, but Tommy led her to a hidden entrance and down a flight of stairs. La Rosa Nera was like stepping back in time. The space had been a speakeasy during Prohibition, and the original Art Deco fixtures remained. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over intimate booths, and a jazz trio played softly in the corner. The air smelled of expensive cigars and aged wine. Dante was waiting at a private booth in the back, and when he saw her, he stood immediately. He was dressed more casually than last night. Black slacks and a charcoal gray shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing powerful forearms and expensive watches. Without the wolf mask, she could fully appreciate his dangerous beauty. "You came," he said, as if there had been doubt. "You did promise no death threats this time," she replied. He laughed, helping her into the booth. "A promise I intend to keep. How was your day?" "Eventful. Your lawyer is terrifyingly efficient." "Isabella is the best at what she does." "Richard signed everything?" "Without much fight. He's leaving Chicago tonight." "Good." His expression darkened slightly. "He's lucky Isabella handled it. My solution would have been more permanent." A waiter appeared with wine, a red that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Dante raised his glass to her. "To new beginnings," he said. "And dangerous attractions," she added. His eyes heated. "You think I'm dangerous?" "I know you are. The question is whether I care." "And do you?" She took a sip of wine, considering. "I should. Every logical part of my brain is screaming that I should run far and fast from you and your world. But there's something about you that makes me want to ignore logic." "What is it?" "You're honest," she said simply. "You don't pretend to be anything other than what you are. After Richard's betrayal, that honesty is incredibly attractive." "I'll always be honest with you," he promised. "Even when the truth is ugly." "Tell me something ugly then." He was quiet for a moment. "I've killed 7 men in my life. 3 when I was young and stupid, fighting for territory. 4 to protect my family or people under my protection. I don't lose sleep over any of them." She should have been horrified. Instead, she found herself asking, "Would you have killed Marcus if he hadn't backed down?" Without hesitation. "For me? Someone you'd just met?" "For you," he confirmed. Because the moment I saw you, something in me decided you were mine to protect. I don't question those instincts anymore." The possessiveness in his voice sent heat through her body. "I'm not property, Dante." "No," he agreed. "You're a force of nature. But that doesn't change the fact that I'd burn this entire city to keep you safe." The intensity of his declaration should have scared her. Instead, she found herself leaning closer. "That's a lot of responsibility to put on someone you barely know." "Then let me know you," he said simply. "Tell me everything. Your childhood, your dreams, your fears. I want it all." So she did, over incredible Italian food, made by a chef who Dante mentioned casually had trained in Milano. She told him about growing up on the South Side, raised by her grandmother after her parents died in a car accident when she was 8, about fighting for every scholarship, every opportunity, determined to build something better, about her love of numbers, the way patterns in data told stories that most people missed. In return, he told her about growing up in the shadow of violence, knowing from a young age that he would inherit his father's empire, about his mother, who died when he was 15, and how her death had hardened something in, about the loneliness of power, how everyone wanted something from him but few people actually saw him. "Until you," he said quietly. "Last night when you looked at me after I'd revealed who I was, you weren't afraid or calculating or awed. You were just curious. You're more interesting than scary," she said, then amended. "To me, anyway. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me." They talked through multiple courses, the restaurant gradually emptying until they were alone except for the staff. Naomi hadn't realized how late it was until she glanced at her phone and saw it was past midnight. "I should go," she said reluctantly. "Should you?" He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Or would you like to see the real La Rosa Nera? This isn't real. This is the public face. The restaurant that important people can sometimes access. But there's another level, the one where the real business happens." He stood, keeping hold of her hand, and led her, through a hidden door behind the bar. Another staircase descended into what had probably been a secondary speakeasy, or perhaps storage during Prohibition. Now it was a luxurious private club, all dark wood and leather, with a massive fireplace dominating one wall. Men in expensive suits looked up as they entered, their conversation stopping mid-sentence. Naomi recognized a few faces: aldermen, police captains, judges, the real power brokers of Chicago, all here in Dante's private domain. "Gentlemen," Dante said, his voice carrying easily through the space, "may I present Miss Naomi Washington? She's under my protection, permanently." The weight of those words settled over the room. Several men exchanged glances, clearly recognizing the significance of Dante's declaration. This wasn't just protection from immediate threat. This was him claiming her as part of his inner circle. "A pleasure, Miss Washington," one older man said, standing and bowing slightly. "Any friend of one, Dante's is family here." Others echoed the sentiment, and Naomi understood she'd just been inducted into something much larger than she'd realized. These men would now protect her by extension, their networks and resources at her disposal if needed. Dante guided her to a private corner, settling them on a leather sofa near the fireplace. "Too much?" he asked quietly. "I feel like I just got married without anyone asking if I was willing," she said honestly. "You can always walk away," he said, though something in his eyes suggested that would hurt him. "The protection stands regardless, but you're not obligated to be part of this world." "What if I want to be?" His hand came up to cup her face. "Then you'd make me the happiest man in Chicago. But you should know what you're agreeing to. This life, it's not easy. There will always be danger, always be people who might try to hurt you to get to me. Like Marcus? Marcus was small time. There are bigger threats out there. The Corsini family from New York has been trying to move into Chicago for years. The Russian Bratva controls the docks and would love to expand inland. And there are always ambitious young men who think killing me would make their reputation." "You're really selling this," she said dryly. He laughed. "I want you to understand the reality, but there are benefits too. You'd never want for anything. You'd have the best security in the city. And you'd have me, completely and utterly devoted to you. You don't even know if we're compatible," she pointed out. "What if I snore? What if I'm terrible in bed? What if I like pineapple on pizza?" "Pineapple on pizza might be a deal breaker," he said seriously, then smiled when she laughed. "As for the rest, I have no doubts about our compatibility." "No? None?" He leaned closer, his lips brushing her ear. "I've thought about nothing but you since last night, how you felt in my arms, How you tasted when I kissed you. How you'd look in my bed, wearing nothing but moonlight. Heat flooded through her. Dante. Tell me you haven't thought about it too, he challenged. She had. God help her. She'd thought about little else. This dangerous man who'd saved her life and upended her world, who looked at her like she was something precious and powerful all at once. This is moving very fast, she said, trying to maintain some semblance of sanity. I'm not known for my patience, he admitted. When I see something I want, I take it. And you want me? More than I've wanted anything in my entire life. The raw honesty in his voice made her shiver. But I can wait if you need time. I can be patient for you. She should take time. Should think about this logically, weigh the pros and cons, make a careful decision. But when had careful decisions ever gotten her anywhere? She'd been careful with Richard, and he'd betrayed her. She'd been careful her whole life, and it had led her to nearly being trafficked. I don't want to be careful anymore, she said quietly. Something flared in his eyes. What do you want? You, she admitted, despite every logical reason why I shouldn't. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the gentle kiss on the terrace. This was fire and demand, his hand tangling in her hair as he claimed her mouth. She responded immediately, pressing closer, her hands gripping his shoulders. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he stood and pulled her up with him. Come home with me, he said. Yes. The single word changed everything. His expression shifted from desire to something deeper, more possessive. He led her out through another hidden exit, where a car was already waiting. His penthouse was in a building that overlooked Grant Park, the space massive and decorated with understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city, lights twinkling like stars below. Drink? He offered. No. She moved to the windows, looking out at the city. Is this what it feels like? Having all of Chicago at your feet? It feels like responsibility, he said, coming up behind her, his hands settling on her waist. Every decision I make affects thousands of people. Every war I prevent or start changes the city's balance. That's a heavy weight to carry. It is. But tonight, I don't want to think about any of it. He turned her to face him. Tonight, I just want you. She reached up, tracing the scar through his eyebrow. How did you get this? Knife fight when I was 19? I was cocky, thought I was invincible. And this? Her fingers found another scar along his jaw, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. Bullet graze. Someone tried to assassinate me 3 years ago. How many scars do you have? Too many to count. He caught her hand, pressing it flat against his chest where she could feel his heart beating strong and steady. But I'm still here, still standing, still dangerous. Very dangerous, he agreed. Except to you. Never to you. She believed him. This man who could order deaths with a word, who controlled half of Chicago's underworld, would never hurt her. The certainty of it should have been impossible after knowing him such a short time, but she felt it in her bones. Show me, she said. Show you what? How dangerous you can be, and how gentle. His control snapped. He lifted her easily, carrying her to his bedroom as she wrapped her legs around his waist. The room was all dark colors and soft textures, dominated by a massive bed that faced the windows. He set her down gently, his hands reverent as they traced the lines of the emerald dress. You're so beautiful it hurts to look at you, he murmured. Then don't look, she said, pulling him down for another kiss. What followed was a revelation. For all his dangerous reputation, Dante touched her like she was made of spun glass, worship in every caress. He took his time, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch against him, what made her call his name like a prayer. When they finally came together, it was with intensity that bordered on violence, all their careful control shattered. She'd never felt so possessed, so cherished, so completely claimed. Afterward, they lay tangled together, watching the city lights below. Dante traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder, his other arm keeping her pressed against his side. Stay, he said quietly. Not just tonight. Move in with me. We've known each other 2 days, she pointed out. And I've learned more about myself in those 2 days than in the past 10 years. He turned her to face him. I'm not a good man, Naomi. I've done terrible things and I'll do more before I'm done. But with you, I want to be better. With you, I remember why I started this. To protect people who couldn't protect themselves. I don't need you to be good, she said. I just need you to be honest. Then honestly, I'm already in love with you, he said simply. I know it's too fast, too intense, too everything. But it's true. She should have been terrified by the declaration. Instead, she felt something click into place in her chest, like she'd been waiting her whole life to hear those words from this specific man. "I think I'm in love with you too," she admitted, "which is completely insane." "The best kind of insane?" he said, echoing her words from earlier. A phone buzzed on the nightstand. His, not hers. He ignored it, but it immediately rang again. And again. With a curse, he answered it. This better be important. She couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she saw his expression darken. "When? How many?" "No, don't move on them yet. I'm coming." He hung up and immediately began getting dressed. "Marcus didn't leave town. He hit one of our warehouses, killed 2 of my men. Oh God. This is what I was trying to protect you from," he said, his voice tight with controlled rage. "The violence that comes with my world. This isn't because of me. This is because Marcus is an idiot who thinks he can use you to make a point." He finished dressing, then came to cup her face in his hands. "I need you to stay here. The building is secure, and I'll leave Tommy and another man. Don't go anywhere until I get back. Be careful." Something softened in his expression. "You're worried about me?" "Of course I am." He kissed her, quick and hard. "I'll be back before dawn. We'll finish what Marcus started, and then you'll never have to worry about him again." She watched him leave, her heart racing with fear for him. She'd entered this world less than 48 hours ago, and already she couldn't imagine leaving it. Leaving him. Time passed slowly. She showered, put on one of Dante's shirts, and tried to distract herself with television, but her mind kept returning to him, out there in the night dealing with violence she could barely imagine. It was nearly 4 a.m. when he returned. She heard the elevator, then the door, and then he was there, blood on his shirt and knuckles, his eyes wild with leftover adrenaline. "Are you hurt?" She was across the room immediately, hands searching for injuries. "It's not my blood," he said quietly. "Marcus is dead, so are 6 of his men." She should have been horrified. Instead, she felt only relief that Dante was safe. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what? That you had to do that?" "Because of me. No." He caught her hands, holding them against his chest. "Marcus made his choice when he tried to traffic you. His death was always going to be the outcome. The only question was when. How can you be so casual about death? Because in my world, death is currency. Marcus knew the rules. He broke them. Now he's paid the price." He studied her face. "Does it bother you, what I am?" "It should," she admitted. "But when I think about what Marcus planned for me, what he's probably done to other women, I can't find it in me to mourn him." "You're stronger than you know," he said softly. "Most people would be running from me right now." "I'm not most people." "No," he agreed. "You're extraordinary." She led him to the bathroom, helped him out of his bloody clothes, and got him into the shower. The water ran red at first, then clear, washing away the evidence of the night's violence. When he was clean, she dried him with gentle hands, tending to the few cuts and bruises he'd sustained. "No one's ever taken care of me like this," he said quietly. "Then they were fools," she replied, pressing a kiss to a bruise on his ribs. They went back to bed as the sun began to rise, painting the Chicago skyline in shades of gold and pink. This time their lovemaking was slow, gentle, a reaffirmation of life after dealing with death. "Move in with me," he said again as they lay in the afterglow. "Let me protect you, provide for you, love you." "What would I do?" she asked. "I can't just be your kept woman. You could do anything you want. Start your own firm. Work for the foundation, or if you prefer, work with Isabella. She's been looking for someone with your forensic accounting skills. Helping you launder money, helping me legitimize it," he corrected. "I'm trying to move more of the family business into legal territory. I could use someone I trust to help with that transition." "You trust me? After 2 days?" "I trust you more than people I've known my whole life." He turned serious. "You saw me covered in blood and didn't flinch. You know what I am and you're still here. That's worth more than years of acquaintance." She considered his offer. It was insane. Giving up her normal life to be with a man she'd just met, entering a world of violence and danger. But her normal life had nearly gotten her trafficked, and Dante made her feel alive in a way she never had before. "All right," she said. "I'll move in. I'll work with Isabella. I'll try this life." The smile that spread across his face was beautiful, transforming him from dangerous to devastatingly handsome. "You won't regret it," he promised. "I better not," she warned. "I know your secrets now. I could destroy you with what I know about your finances," he laughed. And that's why you're perfect for me. Mutually assured destruction is the foundation of the best relationships. Over the next weeks, Naomi settled into her new life. She moved fully into Dante's penthouse, though she kept the other apartment as an office space. She began working with Isabella, using her skills to help legitimize parts of the Santelli Empire, while carefully avoiding anything that would compromise her ethics too much. The violence that had marked their beginning faded into the background, though it never fully disappeared. There were nights when Dante came home with bruised knuckles or dark expressions, when the weight of his world pressed heavy on his shoulders. But there were more nights when he came home to her with flowers, with jewelry, with that smile that was only for her. She learned to navigate his world, earning respect from his men and wariness from his enemies. She was no longer the invisible accountant from the South Side. She was Naomi Washington, Dante Santelli's woman, and that carried weight in Chicago. 3 months after the Masquerade ball, Dante took her back to the Drake Hotel. Another gala, though this one was for legitimate charity. She wore purple again, though this dress was more elaborate, and her mask was covered in real diamonds. "Why here?" she asked as they entered the ballroom. "Because this is where everything changed," he said. "Where I found you." They danced to the same waltz they danced to that first night, though now she knew the steps, moved with confidence in his arms. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly. "Choosing this life? Do you regret saving me?" "Never. It was the best decision I ever made." "Then there's your answer." He spun her, then pulled her close again. "Marry me." She stumbled slightly. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated. "I know we've only been together 3 months, but I knew the first night. You're it for me, Naomi. The only light in my darkness, Dante. I'll wait if you need time," he said quickly, "but know that my decision is made. You're already my wife in every way that matters. I just want to make it official." She thought about the life she'd planned, safe, predictable, ordinary. Then she thought about the life she had now, dangerous, uncertain, but filled with more passion and purpose than she'd ever imagined. "Yes," she said. He stopped dancing. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you. Though if you get yourself killed before the wedding, I'll resurrect you just to kill you again." He laughed, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around, not caring about the attention they were attracting. When he set her down, he kissed her right there in the middle of the dance floor, possession and promise in equal measure. "You've made me the happiest man alive," he murmured against her lips. "Good, keep it that way." 6 months later, they were married in a ceremony that was part fairy tale, part strategic alliance. The wedding brought together all the major families, a statement that Naomi was now untouchable, protected not just by Dante but by the entire infrastructure of organized crime in Chicago. She wore white despite the irony, walked down the aisle to him with confidence, and spoke vows that meant more than the traditional words because they both understood the weight of promising forever in their world. "You saved me," she told him at the reception, as they danced to their first song as husband and wife. "We saved each other," he corrected. "I was drowning in darkness until you brought the light." "That's very poetic for a crime boss." "I have depths," he said with mock offense. "Yes, you do," she agreed, then leaned up to whisper in his ear, "and I plan to explore every single one of them." The heat in his eyes promised retribution later, the best, kind. As the night went on, Naomi looked around the room at their guests. Criminals and judges, killers and philanthropists, all here to celebrate their union. It was a far cry from the life she'd imagined for herself, but it was real and raw and honest in a way her old life had never been. "No regrets?" Dante asked, appearing at her side with a fresh glass of champagne. "None," she said firmly, "though I do sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone to that masquerade." "We would have found each other anyway," he said with certainty. "Some things are destined." "You believe in destiny?" "I believe in you," he said simply. "Everything else is negotiable." 2 years passed. The Santelli Empire grew stronger under their combined leadership. Naomi's legitimate businesses flourished, providing perfect cover for the less legal operations. She became known as the Queen of Chicago's underworld, Dante's perfect match in every way. But nothing in their world stayed peaceful, for long. The trouble started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning. Naomi was in the office she'd established in the penthouse, reviewing contracts for a new hotel acquisition, when Isabella called. "We have a problem," the lawyer said without preamble. "The FBI is building a RICO case. Someone's been feeding them information." "Who?" "We don't know yet. But they have details they shouldn't: shipping manifests, meeting recordings, financial transfers." Someone on the inside is talking. Naomi's blood ran cold. A rat in the organization could bring everything down. Dante took the news with his usual calm, though she could see the rage simmering beneath the surface. Betrayal was the one sin he couldn't forgive. "I want everyone vetted," he told his lieutenants that night. "Every single person with access to sensitive information. Someone is selling us out, and I want to know who." The investigation took weeks. Naomi used her forensic accounting skills to trace unusual deposits, while Dante's men conducted more direct interrogations. The tension in the organization grew with each passing day, paranoia setting in as everyone wondered who the traitor might be. The answer, when it came, was devastating. Tommy. Sweet, loyal Tommy who'd been Naomi's bodyguard from the beginning, who'd been with the family for 5 years, who'd saved Dante's life twice. "It doesn't make sense," Naomi said, staring at the evidence Isabella had compiled. "Why would he turn?" "They have his sister," Isabella explained. "She was arrested 6 months ago on drug charges that could put her away for 20 years. The FBI offered him a deal, information for her freedom." Naomi felt sick. She understood family loyalty, understood the impossible choices love could force you to make. Hadn't she made her own deal with the devil for love? "What will you do?" she asked Dante that night. His expression was stone. "He betrayed us. There's only one punishment for that. His sister made her choices." As did Tommy. He softened slightly at her expression. "I know you care about him, but if I show weakness here, others will think they can betray us too. I can't allow that." She understood the logic, even as her heart rebelled against it. This was the reality of their world: brutal, unforgiving justice. Tommy was brought to the warehouse where these matters were handled. Naomi insisted on being there, though Dante tried to prevent it. "You don't need to see this," he said. "Yes, I do. If I'm your queen, I need to understand all aspects of your kingdom." Tommy looked younger than his 28 years, kneeling on the concrete floor with his hands zip-tied behind him. When he saw Naomi, tears filled his eyes. "I'm sorry, Mrs. S. I'm so sorry." "Why?" she asked simply. "She's all I have left," he said. "My baby sister. She made a mistake, got mixed up with the wrong people. The FBI said they'd make sure she died in prison if I didn't cooperate." Naomi looked at Dante. His face was impassive, but she knew him well enough now to see the conflict in his eyes. Justice demanded Tommy's death, but mercy whispered of another way. "There's another option," she said quietly. Dante raised an eyebrow. "We get his sister out legally. Isabella can work her magic, find technicalities, get the charges reduced or dismissed. Tommy disappears. New identity, new city, never to return to Chicago. The FBI loses their source. We plug the leak, and no one has to die." "That's not how we handle betrayal," one of Dante's lieutenants said. "Maybe it's time for a new way," Naomi countered. "Mercy can be its own kind of strength." Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You heard my wife. Isabella, make it happen. Tommy, you have 48 hours to disappear. If I ever see you again, if you ever contact anyone in this organization, the original sentence stands. Understood?" "Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you both." As they drove home, Dante was quiet. Finally, Naomi asked, "Are you angry with me? For interfering?" "No," he said. "You reminded me why I fell in love with you. You see possibilities where I only see absolutes. Maybe the organization needs that balance. So you're not going soft?" He laughed. "Never. But perhaps selectively merciful." The FBI case fell apart without Tommy's testimony. Isabella worked her legal magic, and within a month, Tommy and his sister had new identities in Seattle. The crisis passed, but it left its mark. "We need to be more careful," Dante said one night. "The FBI won't give up. They'll find another angle. Then we give them less to find." Naomi suggested, "Move more into legitimate businesses. You said you wanted to transition anyway." "It's not that simple. The other families will follow if you lead. You're the strongest family in Chicago. If you say the future is legitimate, they'll adapt or be left behind." He considered this. "You really think we could go fully legitimate?" "Not fully, not quickly. But mostly? Eventually? Yes." It became their new project. Slowly, carefully, they shifted the family's resources. The gambling operations became licensed casinos in Indiana. The protection rackets evolved into legitimate security firms. The smuggling networks transformed into legal import-export businesses. There was resistance, of course. Some of the old guard saw it as weakness, betrayal of tradition. But Naomi's vision and Dante's strength kept them in line. 3 years into their marriage, at another charity gala, this one for the hospital wing the Santelli Foundation had funded, Naomi felt eyes on her. Not the usual watching that came with being Dante's wife, but something more focused, more intense. She spotted him by the bar, a man she didn't recognize, tall and lean with salt and pepper hair and eyes like a hawk. He was watching her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "Dante," she murmured, touching his arm. 2 o'clock by the bar. Dante's gaze flicked over, then back. His body tensed almost imperceptibly. "Vincent Corsini," he said quietly. "New York. The Corsini family." Dante had mentioned them as potential threats, families looking to expand into Chicago. That one was here, at their event, was not good. "Want me to have him removed?" Dante asked. "No, let's see what he wants." As if he'd heard them, Vincent Corsini picked up 2 glasses of champagne and made his way over. "Mr. Santelli," he said with a slight bow. "Mrs. Santelli, I hoped we might talk." "This is a charity event, Corsini," Dante said coldly. "Not a business meeting. Everything is business in our world," Vincent replied. "Surely your lovely wife has learned that by now." "My wife has learned many things," Dante said, his voice dropping dangerously. "Including how to spot a threat at 50 paces. Vincent laughed. "No threat intended. In fact, I come with a proposition. The families in New York have been watching your transition with interest. Some think you're going soft. Others think you're pioneering the future." "And which do you think?" Naomi asked. His hawk eyes focused on her. "I think you're the most dangerous couple in America. You," he nodded to Dante, "have the power and reputation to enforce your will. And you," he looked at Naomi, "have the vision and intelligence to see beyond the old ways. Together, you're unstoppable." "Flattery?" Dante asked. "From a Corsini?" "Truth," Vincent corrected. "Which is why I'm here. The New York families want in on what you're building. This legitimate empire with underworld backing. We want an alliance." Naomi and Dante exchanged glances. An alliance with New York would make them untouchable, but it would also mean sharing power, something neither of them did easily. "We'll consider it," Naomi said diplomatically. "Have your people send a proposal to Isabella Romano." Vincent smiled. "The infamous lawyer. Yes, we know all about your inner circle." He raised his champagne glass. "To the future, then. May it be profitable for all of us." After he left, Dante pulled Naomi onto the dance floor, needing the excuse to hold her close and speak privately. "Thoughts?" he asked. "He's dangerous. But he might also be right. An alliance could protect us from federal attention, give us resources to expand. Or it could be a trap. The Corsinis have wanted Chicago for decades. Then we make sure the alliance benefits us more than them," Naomi said. "We set the terms. We maintain control." "You're thinking like a real crime boss now," Dante said with a smile. "I learned from the best." The negotiations with New York took months. Naomi led them, with Isabella at her side, proving that she wasn't just Dante's wife but a force in her own right. The final deal gave the Corsinis a piece of Chicago's legitimate operations in exchange for connections and protection on the East Coast. The night the deal was signed, Dante and Naomi stood on their penthouse balcony, looking out at the city they now controlled more completely than ever. "We did it," Naomi said. "We're legitimate. Or mostly. We're safe," Dante corrected. "That's what matters. No one can touch us now." She turned in his arms. "Is that what you wanted? Safety?" "I wanted you safe," he said. "Everything else was just a means to that end. You built an empire for me? I'd build 1,000 empires if it meant keeping you safe." She kissed him, pouring all her love and gratitude into it. When they broke apart, she had tears in her eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "Nothing. Everything's perfect. That's what scares me." "Why?" "Because in our world, perfect never lasts." She was right, though the threat came from an unexpected source. Richard Carver, her former mentor who'd tried to sell her 5 years ago. He'd been living in Miami under an assumed name, but financial desperation had driven him to make a fatal mistake. "He's been in contact with the FBI," Isabella reported at their weekly meeting, "offering information about our operations in exchange for immunity and witness protection." "He doesn't know anything current," Naomi pointed out. "He's been gone for 5 years. But he knows how we started," Dante said darkly. "He knows about that night at the Masquerade, about Marcus. He could paint you as a victim, me as someone who took advantage of a vulnerable woman. That's not what happened. The truth rarely matters in federal court, Isabella said. Perception is everything. And the perception of a young black woman trafficked and then seduced by the Mafia boss who saved her? That's a story that could destroy everything we've built. Naomi felt rage course through her. After everything, Richard was still trying to destroy her life. What are our options? She asked. Isabella and Dante exchanged glances. You don't want to know? Dante said. Yes, I do. I'm not some delicate flower you need to protect from hard truths. Richard needs to be silenced, Isabella said bluntly. Permanently. You're talking about murder. I'm talking about survival, Isabella corrected. He made his choice when he tried to sell you. He made it again when he went to the FBI. This is just the consequence finally catching up. Naomi was quiet for a long moment. 5 years ago, she would have been horrified by this conversation. Now, she understood it was the cost of the life she'd chosen. Make it quick, she said finally. He's a rat and a traitor, but he doesn't need to suffer. Dante took her hand. You don't have to be part of this decision. Yes, I do. I'm your partner in everything. That means the dark as well as the light. Richard Carver died in a car accident in Miami 2 weeks later. The FBI investigation died with him, their star witness gone and no evidence to proceed without him. That night, Naomi sat in their bedroom, staring out at the city lights, processing what she'd become. She'd ordered a man's death, justified or not. She'd crossed a line. She could never uncross. Regrets? Dante asked, joining her. No, she said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. He tried to destroy me twice. I just finally fought back. You're remarkable, he said softly. Most people would be destroyed by guilt. I save my guilt for people who deserve it. Richard wasn't one of them. They sat in comfortable silence before Naomi spoke again. I want a baby. Dante went still. What? I want a family. Our family. I want to create something good and pure in the middle of all this darkness. A baby in our world would be the most protected child in Chicago, she finished. Would have every opportunity, every advantage. Would grow up knowing they're loved and wanted and cherished. It's dangerous. Everything about our life is dangerous. But we've survived it all. We can protect a child. Dante pulled her into his lap, his hands framing her face. A baby. Our baby. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes, he said, then kissed her. Deeply. Though you know this means even more security. More precautions. I know. And the other families will see it as either weakness or dynasty building. Let them. We're strong enough to handle either interpretation. 9 months later, their son was born. They named him Marcus, not after the man who'd tried to traffic Naomi, but meaning warrior, a child born into a warrior's world who would need a warrior's strength. The birth brought unexpected alliances. Even rival families sent gifts and congratulations, recognizing the significance of the Santelli heir. The baby was a symbol of their power, their permanence, their transition from pure crime family to dynasty. But with new life came new threats. The Russians are moving, one of Dante's lieutenants reported when Marcus was 6 months old. They see the baby as leverage. Over my dead body, Dante said coldly. That might be their plan, the lieutenant replied. Security tripled. Naomi couldn't go anywhere without a Breda. Full detail. The baby's nursery was a fortress, bulletproof glass and reinforced walls disguised behind designer wallpaper. The attack came on a Tuesday afternoon. Naomi was in the park with Marcus, surrounded by security but trying to give her son some semblance of normal life. The Russians had planned carefully, creating a distraction on one side while the real threat came from another. She saw him too late. A man in a maintenance uniform approaching too fast, hand reaching inside his jacket. Her security was responding but not fast enough. In that moment, Naomi made a choice. She pulled the gun Dante had insisted she carry, the one she'd trained with but never used, and fired 3 shots center mass. The man dropped 10 feet from Marcus's stroller. The park erupted in screams, people running, security converging. But Naomi stood frozen, staring at the man she'd killed. His hand had fallen out of his jacket, revealing a knife, not a gun. He'd gotten so close, too close. Mrs. S., we need to move, one of her security said urgently. She scooped up Marcus, who was crying from the noise, and let them rush her to the waiting car. Her hands were steady. She'd just killed a man and her hands were steady. Dante met them at the penthouse, having broken every speed limit in the city to get there. He crushed them both in his arms, his body shaking with relief and rage. You're safe, he kept saying. You're both safe. I killed him, Naomi said quietly. I killed a man. You saved our son. You saved yourself. He pulled back to look at her face. You did what you had to do. I'm not sorry, she said, realizing it was true. He was going to hurt Marcus. I'm not sorry he's dead. You shouldn't be. He made his choice when he accepted the contract on our son. That night, after Marcus was safely asleep and the penthouse was locked down tight, Dante made a declaration that would reshape Chicago's underworld. The Russians have 1 hour to leave the city, he announced to the assembled families via secure video conference. Anyone who stays will be considered an enemy combatant and treated accordingly. You can't just exile an entire organization, Vincent Corsini said from New York. Watch me, Dante replied. They tried to kill my son. There's no forgiveness for that. No negotiation. They leave or they die. This will mean war. Then war it is. The Russians didn't leave. The war that followed was brutal, but brief. The combined might of the Santelli organization and their New York allies crushed the Russian presence in Chicago within a month. The message was clear. The Santelli family was untouchable. In the aftermath, as they rebuilt and consolidated power, Naomi realized something had changed in her. The woman who'd walked into that masquerade ball 6 years ago was gone. In her place was someone harder, stronger, more ruthless when necessary. Do you miss her? Dante asked one night, somehow reading her thoughts. The woman you were before? Sometimes, she admitted. She was innocent, hopeful, good. You're still good. I've killed 2 people. I've ordered deaths. I've built an empire on blood and money. You've protected our family. You've transformed a criminal organization into something almost legitimate. You've saved more people than you've hurt. He kissed her forehead. You're still good, Naomi. Just not naive anymore. She hoped he was right. Years passed. Marcus grew into a bright, happy child, unaware of the blood that had been spilled to keep him safe. The Santelli Empire continued its transformation, becoming more legitimate with each passing year, though the underworld connections remained, carefully hidden but always there. On the 7th anniversary of that fateful masquerade ball, Dante recreated the evening, the Drake Hotel ballroom, the masks, the waltz, but this time, everyone knew who they were, what they represented. The king and queen of Chicago's underworld, untouchable and unbreakable. Dance. With me, Dante said, offering his hand just as he had that first night. No death threats this time? She asked, taking it. No threats at all. Just a promise. What promise? That I'll love you until my last breath. That I'll protect you and Marcus with everything I have. That every choice I make will be to keep our family safe and strong. That's a big promise. I'm a man of big promises. They danced, the room watching them with mixtures of fear, respect, and envy. They'd built something unprecedented. A criminal empire transformed into mostly legitimate business, held together by strategic violence and unbreakable loyalty. Any regrets? Dante asked, echoing his question from years ago. One, Naomi said. He tensed. What? I regret that Richard isn't alive to see what we've become, to know that his betrayal led to this, to me becoming more powerful than he ever dreamed of being. Dante laughed, spinning her dramatically. That's my queen. Beautiful and ruthless. Your queen, she agreed. Always. As they danced, Naomi thought about the path that had led here. A forensic accountant who'd stumbled into a trap. A mafia boss who'd chosen to save rather than ignore. A whispered warning, dance with me or die, that had changed everything. She'd chosen to dance. And in doing so, she'd chosen a life she never could have imagined. Dangerous, yes. Dark, certainly. But also passionate, powerful, and absolutely real. The music swelled. Dante dipped her low, and when he pulled her back up, she saw their whole future in his eyes. More challenges would come. More threats would emerge. But they'd face them together, the accountant and the crime boss who'd found salvation in each other's arms. I love you, she said simply. And I love you, he replied. My beautiful, dangerous queen. The song ended, but they kept dancing, lost in each other as they'd been from that very first night. Around them, Chicago's elite watched and whispered, but Naomi and Dante were untouchable in their bubble of power and love. They'd built an empire, they'd survived wars, they'd transformed from predator and prey into partners in every sense. And it all started with a dance.